Greetings, lovers of arm wrestling.
Matthew here, coming at you coldly but boldly from the bitter Minnesota North. I'd like to talk to you about immortality today. If you follow the bigger guys in the sport, you've probably noticed that the visual representation of their progress throughout their career doesn't exactly look like this straight line up. It looks more like this. Peaks and valleys trending upward. They suffer defeats, they get broken apart, they grow. And that's what makes them the best. They're changeable. Devon Larratt is the epitome of this. He's suffered major defeats that have reshaped him. And I think this might just be the key to immortality. Not just as a legend in the arm wrestling world, but possibly as a human being. Devon Larratt talks about immortality. He talks about wanting to live forever, and in a sense, he talks about how to do it. He talks about life being waves. This thing showing up again, waves. He talks about the need to die on the table. He talks about the need to be broken apart. And that, oh my God, there are turkeys in that yard over there. Look! Look at them turkeys. Look at them go. Wowee! Look at them go. We got all the animals out here today. Got a crow going at it. You might hear him. Anyway, I've been thinking about immortality for a very long time. And, there's a northern cardinal. Beautiful. The other day, while sort of drafting up a rough script for this video, I got to thinking about what would happen if a person became changeable enough, if a person became open enough to defeat, to loss, to breaking off those dead old pieces to let new pieces grow. What would happen if a person became so habituated to that process that it was just second nature to them? Is it possible that your cells would learn or rediscover their ability to rejuvenate endlessly? You know, like infinite stem cell doses from Vitacell. Not likely. It's much more likely that over time medicine will advance to the point where we have engineered some form of life extension that approximates immortality. But it's fun to think about, and it's fun to think about in the context of things like enlightenment. Maybe this is what Siddhartha attained. Anyway, it's just fascinating to me that we have an athlete in the sport of arm wrestling who is obsessed with losing to the point that his defeats generate these miraculous growth spurts. And he's kind of rubbing off on the other athletes too. He gave Hermes Gasparini this strong dose of humility. And Hermes is doing Devon's lifts now. He's changing everything up. And I'm sure Devon learned a lot of this from someone too. I'm not saying he invented it by any means. Of course not. It reminds me of Be water, my friend. Bruce Lee. Be changeable. Now, we as humans aren't water, but we don't want to be rocks either. A rock dropped from a height, landing on a hard surface will, what? It'll shatter, and you don't want that. A human isn't water either. You don't just flow and be formless. You have a form. You need to have one. So maybe a human being is something like a mix of rock and water. Well, what is a mix of rock and water? It's clay, maybe. Wet clay. And what happens when a piece of wet clay drops from a height? Flattens out. And then you can mold it back into a nice, tidy shape again. How about that? If you're familiar with the Bible, you are probably thinking about clay, shaped by the potter. We are the clay, God is the potter. You don't have to believe in God to find this idea interesting and valuable. So I think Devon Larratt has shown us a pretty good demonstration of what it is to be clay in the potter's hand. And it is so very applicable, not just to sports and physicality, but to all walks of life, isn't it? The willingness to suffer defeat, loss, grief, betrayal. Who knows how you'll be broken, but you can come back together. I mean, hell, you can be a rock. You can be as brittle and unyielding as they come and be broken. And then someone comes along with liquid gold and puts you back together. And now you have this beautiful element as a part of your makeup forever. Isn't that something? That sort of happened to me a few years back, but that's another story. Nature has ways of rebuilding us. And the more I think about it, arm wrestling is becoming a sport where the loftiest goal might not be the highest peak. It might actually be, how would you say it, the widest range of peaks. Longevity. And it has been. We recognize John Brzezinski as the GOAT. He may not have had the highest peak in the entire sport, but he was on top or close to it for the longest. And Devon Larratt is getting up there too. To elaborate on that point from the comfort of my room, I just think it's fascinating that while Devon's current peak or prime may not be as high as Levon's peak was, which I believe was probably about 2 years ago, he might be right on the level with Levon right now. So arm wrestling isn't just a competition of getting the highest peak, but it's a competition of peaking when your opponent is low. Fascinating, isn't it? You have to play the game for a long time to really see those conflicts play out. But with stem cells, everybody's going to be having these peaks and valleys. People are going to be in the game for decades longer than expected. Levon has shown that he is changeable. And I'm relieved about that. I was honestly a little bit scared that he would stick to the 190 kg and something bad would happen to him. But I wonder if mentally, spiritually, he has the flexibility to deal with what's going to happen to him. We haven't seen him lose in 6 years. We haven't seen him get pinned in 6 years. I get a feeling he'll get a rush out of it. I think he'll take it positively if it happens. After all, the match where Hermes put him to the test, he said that was the best match of his life. Yeah, maybe the match with Devon will be just as good. Immortality. Immortality might just be a series of small deaths. Small death. When you lose, when I destroy you, you will experience a small death. Not large. A small piece of you I will take with me. A small piece of you I will keep. Devon No Limits Larratt, in a little video he made addressing Sandris before their match. That is the theme of the song I am making for Devon, which is titled Die on the Table. It's a song about getting knocked down and climbing back up the mountain. Hey, buddy. It's a song about life being waves. It's a song about living forever. March 30th. Get ready. Oh yeah, and here's the third and final teaser, because you're worth it.